senior royal still battling it out with members of his own family over this very thorny topic. As ever though, let me explain. Hi, good morning. How are you? Nice to see you today. I hope you're well. Yes, yeah, I know. We'll get there in the end. We're waking up, aren't we? I know. I tell you what, I love sharing these things with you. I was out with a friend the other day and they paid, can you imagine? I don't know what this is in your money in the rest of the world, £3.70 for an iced coffee. And I looked at this coffee, you know what it's like, and it was in one of those plastic cups, half full with ice and then a bit of a dribbling of coffee, you know. And I said, do you think it's worth it? Oh, yes, it's worth it. I can't, no, I have to have this brand and all this. Is it me? £3.70, you know, and he gave a fiver and obviously got 130 back and everything. And I just thought I couldn't spend that money. It's just a cup of coffee. I know it's a brand, I know it's a business, I get all of that want and demand. Could you though spend it in this cost of living crisis? No, I just can't. Is it me? Let me know. Yes. Back as ever to your breaking roll story of the day. Serious matter actually, because as we know, the former royal known as the Duke of York, His Royal Highness Prince Andrew, tough times and literally kept out of the way, kept out of many things over the last few years, all thanks to that disgraceful episode regarding Jeffrey Epstein. And, you know, it still rolls on. Now, it's interesting because a recent report over here in the United Kingdom was leaked by the former Home Secretary, Priti Patel, or to give her a right title now, Dame Priti Patel. And this was basically a letter in which he had to apologise to His Majesty the King that got leaked out regarding, of course, Prince Andrew's, well, ongoing security or non-security, as the case may be. Apparently, this costs around about $3 million a year. Now, of course, a lot of people, particularly the Republican side of things, are up in arms. Why should we pay for this? And really, since the debacle has ensued, you know, Prince Andrew has mainly lived on the estate at Royal Lodge inside Windsor Great Park, naturally, and at that period was visiting his mum on a regular basis. You get the picture. But what's interesting now, which is developing, is that he is trying to lobby, I've been told by very good sources here, His Majesty the King, about the reinstatement of his security. And this is simply because, as he pointed out, he can't really leave the estate. He can't really leave the estate of Balmoral. There is no protection around him. Now, some might suggest that, does he really need that? How much of a figure is he? He's certainly not representing the British monarchy, and he's certainly not up on the public stage. But as his wife, his former wife, the Duchess of York, Sarah Ferguson, pointed out, he's now virtually a prisoner within those walls. And, you know, obviously one has to be concerned because, as we saw recently, when he was there up in Scotland during the funeral procession, you know, the remembrance of our late and wonderful monarch, people were shouting things out, eggs were thrown, all the negativity. And now, you know, it comes down to, in this very tightened cost of living crisis, should the public purse be paying? Many people say it should be privately funded, and that would naturally have to come from the resources of His Majesty the King. But again, you know, there is a friction between them, as one can imagine, and this is really the big debate. The reason why the former Home Secretary, as I say, had to publicly apologise and write a personal direct letter to His Majesty the King was simply the fact that it got leaked out into the media, or else nobody would have known. I know Priti Patel incredibly well, and obviously we discuss many different things in many different forms. What I would say is simply this, that it's a bit of an undivided thing. You know, the bottom line is, as we know right now, Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, is in fact a non-guilty person. No actual charges have been brought against him. Yes, there was a payment. We're not quite sure exactly what that payment was, and we're not quite sure exactly what the payment was for. Endless documentaries now keep coming out, particularly with the former BBC host Emily Maitlis, one even last week, which failed to raise a ripple of interest in the media around the world. So how needy is he of security? Or indeed, should he be afforded that, given the fact he's been placed in such an indelicate position? As ever, I'd really love to know what you think to this particular story. Andrew with security or Andrew without security? This is now the dilemma amongst many for His Majesty the King. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.